This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I share programming, marketing, and promotion strategies that are easy, enjoyable, even fun, so you can create a business and a life you love. And this is installment 2 of the book club episodes, and we are, as promised, teasing a couple of books that you may want to either borrow from the library, listen on a audio book, or put into your personal library. Are you great, or do you desire to be? Do you have a conventional education or not? And does that get in the way of you being you? We're going to address those questions today, and my co-host and book reviewer today is Tom Durkin, who's owner-operator of Ames Fitness and Fitness World Ankeny in the Midwest. So in the conservative Midwest, with a conservative population, in the best and the worst of times, he's done relatively well for about 40 years in the fitness industry and in management in every one of those buildings. So not a phantom owner. He's the CEO of Health and Fitness Management Corporation. He's got probably 2,000 books, and that number's probably gone up since we talked last, in his personal library. And, he can vouch for success in the personal training industry and in the fitness membership arena in brick and mortar buildings, with approximately 900,000 visits in the last year, up from 200 and 300 relative to different buildings and facilities, 58,000 personal training sessions in the last year. He has 315 employees. So whether you are a personal trainer who might be self-employed, solo entrepreneur, or working for someone else, you're a director or a manager, or you are an owner perhaps who wears all of those hats, he can relate, and you can probably glean something from what we're about to say. Tom, thanks for joining me.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. So we are tackling Great by Choice, and we're also talking about Dark Horse, 2 books we teased last time. And let's dive in with Great by Choice. Talk to me. So if you had to give, we had a gun to your head and you had to give 2 or 3 sentences about what that's all about. What is it? What's the tease?
Great by Choice is just what it says it is. Have you decided to be great? And if you have made up your mind to be great, are you willing to put in the consistent effort day after day to achieve that goal? And how do you know that you are great? Who are you measuring? Who's the measuring stick? So I think those are the 3 important lessons when I read Great by Choice that I came away with. There's a lot of examples in this book from different businesses, from Apple to across the country, different businesses that have chosen to be great, and we use their products and services. But in the fitness industry, I'm always looking for advantages of something that I can bring to my trainers or bring to my employees or bring to my managers that then they can pass on to our customers to separate ourselves from our competition. And that decision to become great is easy to make when you're sitting at home and you're comfortable and the sun's shining. But when it's difficult and you're tired and you're depressed and things haven't went very well, then what do you accept? Then you accept average. Then you take the day off. And that's the difference. And that's what this book's about.
Okay, so I've got a question for you. So Jim Collins is no stranger. And whether anybody listening has read his other books or not, probably you're very familiar with them because he ends up on every list for business and or personal development. So his other book may be a little bit better known, and that's Good to Great. How would you distinguish the 2? What's the difference from this one to the other one?
The first one I like better. It's more about the individual. This one is a little, this is a lot about business. I mean, this talks a lot about the metrics and the management and trajectory. And so if you don't own your own personal training studio, or you don't own your own business, or you're not starting your own studio, this may not be a great investment at this particular time. His first book would probably be a better read for you. I enjoyed this book. I mean, I have this book for me worked. I every single day measure our revenue versus our expenses, and we just built a tennis bubble 6 weeks ago. And so, for instance, every single day I'm measuring the revenue off every tennis court, and it's interesting to look at that. And but those are some of the activities that I need to do to make sure that this tennis facility is successful. We had this winter here in the Midwest has really been tough, and I thought it was interesting in reading this book. On one particular week, we had 250 cancellations of personal training sessions.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we averaged 600, so 50% of them canceled.
Yep.
For a week. Okay. I thought it was really interesting. Out of all the trainers, only one stayed in the building and made phone calls and sent thank you cards. The rest of them went home, watched Netflix. Now, here's the message I get. If I'm a customer, there's only one trainer I want. The rest of them went home. And I would suggest to you at the end of the year, end of 2019, let's go look at the paycheck. You decide how much money you want to make. You decide where you want it. It's the choice. You decide. So in my mind, 10 went home, 1 stayed. I need to bet on the 1. So that's what this is about.
Doing it when you need to do it, not when it's convenient.
Well, right. I mean, not all time in life is equal. I mean, not everything is fair. And you're going to have moments in your life when you're going to get slapped in the face. And you're going to have to make a decision. And what's that decision going to be? And then what are you going to do with it for the rest of your life? I mean, our work life is so short and so brief, and there's so much competition out there that if you think mediocre, if you act mediocre, if your effort is mediocre, well, you're going to have a darn tough time. So, if I was 23 or 22 years old, starting over in the fitness industry, which I think would be great, and I would love to do that actually, is that, the sooner you make up your mind and roll up your sleeves and understand that you need to measure everything, how many phone calls you make, how good are you in session, how many referrals do you get, how many thank you cards do you send out, how prepared are you for your individual sessions. As soon as you make up your mind and do those things, life changes. But most people don't get that.
Okay, so I'm going to back you up just a second because I'm going to guess that a lot of listeners right now might be thinking that they don't necessarily agree with your statement that our work life is so short because we spend such a great proportion of our waking hours at our work. And those students, brand new students out of college who are looking at, what a great life I had 6 months ago when I was still a senior, as opposed to my work life now, are feeling like every waking moment is spent working. So explain that, unpack that a little bit. When you say our work life is so short.
Here's what I mean. If it's your passion, it's your passion. I mean, either you're lying that it's your passion, because if you enjoy it, if you love it, if you want to help people, I don't feel I'm at work. When 3 times a year, I have to talk to a customer about exercise or fitness and talk to them about the importance of fitness and exercise, no matter if they're 25 or 105, no matter if they're very fit or unfit, I enjoy it. And whether we talk for 15 minutes or 3 hours, I enjoy it. And I've been doing this for 40 years. So I never look at the clock. I look at the fulfillment that I get out of what I do and how many people am I helping. And so I'm just saying, in that instance, my 40 years have went by fast. And I just think fitness now is stronger than ever. There's a greater need for fitness. We have more unfit people now, more now than ever. And we need great people in fitness. But you need to have mentors. You need to have education. You need to be reading these books. If you want your career to go up, stand on top of these books. I mean, yeah, I do read a lot of books because if I can get one page out of a book to help me go forward, that's what I'm looking to do.
Okay, so back up a little bit. So let's talk about, as you were talking about be great, make the decision to be great. I think this is a lot like the analogy of saying, eat healthy, eat healthy, eat healthy. And whether that's a customer saying, I eat healthy, but I'm not getting anywhere. And, or, the articles and the blogs that say healthy eating choices you should make, blah, blah, blah. The question today in 2019 is absolutely defining eating healthy for you on an individual basis, because we're all so different. So if we were defining great as a fitness professional, what's the definition?
Well, for every person, it's going to be a little bit different. However, the first thing I would say, are you living up 100% of the time to your capabilities? Is this all you got? Are you giving everything you have? And I would suggest to you, if you gave them all truth serum, they would say no. So it's impossible, first of all, until you decide to give better effort. Number two, who are you competing against? So if you're not working with someone or have a mentor or have someone who's coaching you, who's got experience in the field, who's had a lot of success, whether it's financial or whether they've helped a lot of people or they've had a lot of fulfillment, whatever your measurement of success is. I mean, to me, fulfillment is the number one criteria. I want to feel good about my life and I want to help a lot of people. And when I see people that are fitter and healthier and have better lives now because they've used our services and used our facilities and that gives me great satisfaction. Yeah, I need the money to pay the light bill and buy groceries. But, I think they should just sit down and draw up a plan and say, what is my fulfillment? How much money do I need to make in 2019? If that's one of my criteria. How many clients do I want to have? What do I want to do at the end of 2019, December 15, 2019? Where do I want to be sitting when I look in the mirror and say, I've given everything I've had to 2019 and my career? And I would say this to you, Deborah, you ask 10,000 personal trainers across the United States of America, and you're not going to find 5 that do that.
Okay. I love what you've just said. And I think really this comes down to the second question is, how do you measure that? Like, how do you measure your greatness or the tasks and the activities that you're going to do on a daily basis to get there? And I think this too is a gray area. Like, I can hear a trainer saying, I'm sure I've heard this, I want to be the best trainer here. But nobody knows exactly what that is. And I think quite often trainers who say that have not defined it. Like, what is the definition of that? And it may be their own personal vantage point. It may be, for somebody, say, status or just recognition, influencers. It may be the number of people on their Facebook fan page. But for others, it may actually be, I want to be able to say the hours I work are between 9 and 5, and I want to make a viable income and have a great career doing that. So I also have a family life. That may be their definition of success and feeling their potential. So what would you say are the things to measure, knowing what you know after 40 years? If someone wants to be full, be able to justify charging more because they're sending a message, I'm worth it, I am the trainer. What are the actual steps that will get someone full?
Preparation.
How do we measure?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I don't think many of them are prepared.
Prepared to do what, though? I want the actual steps. What does somebody need to do today, between 8 and 5 today, to get full?
But before 8 and 5 today, you need to work last night on who you're
doing what?
Well, do you have so for instance, if you're not full between 8 to 5 today and you've got openings, let's say from 8 to 9 a.m. today, you have no client. What steps are you going to take today? Are you going to walk the floor of the fitness center? If you work in a fitness center or a studio, are you going to walk that floor and talk to people that are currently in the building at that particular time when you need a client and give them some free information or free advice or free tips? Talk to them, show them some things, follow up, offer them a session, have a sales pitch, try and close them, bring them in, and get that done. No, you're not going to do that. Number two, I mean, and so I see this every single day. So, we have to decide as management. I have a client that comes in, and so I have a client that comes in that wants to train with somebody between 8 to 9 a.m. Well, I know this trainer by their actions do not seem very motivated to me, and they're not prepared. It's hard for us as a management team to give a client to that trainer if they're not prepared. So step number one would be is that, are you going to be proactive in your downtime? Number two, do you have a list of people via email, via Facebook, sending out thank you cards, making phone calls, text messages? Do you have a list of people that you're contacting? No. Number three, are you out in the public giving speeches, talking about your craft and who you are and what you are? Is that happening? Do you have a podcast? Are you writing articles? No, they're not. Now you're in session. So from 9 to 10, you're in session. Is everything prepared? Is everything documented for that client? Is everything ready to go? Is the piece of equipment that you're going to put them on in a half an hour, is that piece of equipment clean? Have you checked that bicycle? Have you checked that rowing machine? Have you checked that treadmill? Have you checked it? You're going to put them in that pool. Have you looked at that pool? Do you know that water temperature? Well, no. Well, that all sends a message to that client. And then the fastest way to grow is through referrals. If I like you, I'm going to tell friends, I like you. And if I don't, I'm going to tell them that too. And now with social media, you kill yourself. So it's pretty darn simple. If you're great in a small community like I live in, people know you're great and they wait for you. So I think those steps, and number three is that go to meetings where you can learn information. We've got meetings and not all trainers show up for these meetings, and it drives me crazy. And the ones that don't show up are always the ones on the fringe, and they need the meetings the worst. And yet they've got other activities. They've got their personal life to do. Well, if you want to work 8 to 5 and you want to make X amount of dollars and you want to be home with your families on nights and weekends, I think that's great. But what that means is that doing these steps, that when you do have downtime and going out soliciting and recruiting on a regular basis and having your material ready to go where you can stand up in front of groups and talk to them, having podcasts, writing articles, doing whatever you need to do to put your name out there to separate yourself from the competition is absolutely necessary. And that's in short supply today. So those are, every single day we measure these personal training sessions. And like I said, we had a big snowstorm. We had 250 cancellations in 3 or 4 days. All the trainers left the building.
Elvis, okay, I got it. Yeah, great points. A really good list of actionable items. And then I would add to that. So just a quick summary for those of you who are listening, those steps that you take to be great by choice, to get full, to reach your capacity, whatever that is, whether you're listening and you are a part-time trainer or you want to be, at 30 or 35 hours a week and you're not yet. Those steps were, number one, talk to people to create rapport, offer a session, use a script, and ask for a sale. That's one all the way through. Number two is have a list of leads. Some of those leads may come from the people you've talked to because you have to follow up. And if they say, maybe yes or no, and I don't know, or not right now, I have to think about it. That's not a no. So continuing to follow up on that list of leads, I think, is really important. You've given some great examples of people who work for you in your organization who follow up again and again and again, sometimes for months, if not years, and it pays off. The third step is to book yourself in front of people. No matter how good social media might be, there's nothing like talking to people. So book speeches, book presentations, or host them if you can't do it outside of your organization. Create podcasts, create articles. The fourth one is to be prepared for everybody you are serving already. Plan for the customers you have. And then fifth is the step we need to add is measure how many times you've done each of those steps regularly, daily, the end of the day, and weekly. Set a goal and look at whether you reached that quota, because it's taking those actions that fills you up. And you just heard it here from somebody who for 40 years has been successful. There's not a lot of people who can say that in fitness that started 40 years ago and are still extremely successful today. So thanks for those tips. Any last things you want to add about Great by Choice?
Yeah, I just think you need clear performance markers. Every single day, have a performance marker for yourself. If you're trying to get full, it's not how many phone calls you make, that's one of the markers. The second marker is, are you any good at it? I buy books for some of our staff on how to write emails. And when I give them the book, they're offended. And I make them read the book to improve the emails that we send out. But we see a difference in the response that we get from our customers. And so I would just make sure that you've got clear performance markers on a daily basis on the amount of information you're sending out. Is the information as concise as you want it? Are you getting a good return on it? What can I do to shorten everything to get to the performance that I'm looking for? So sometimes people, they'll have a good week or a good month and they quit fine tuning. And fitness has changed a lot over the years. It will continue to change. And so our customers are getting more sophisticated and they expect more value. And so we need to be, as professionals, we need to continue to bring more value. And so we're always altering these markers and these quotas and these benchmarks. And so just make sure that you've got really clear benchmarks so you do have something to go by at the end of the month to show that you have chosen by your choice to be great.
Great summary. Okay, so let's jump ship. Let's talk a little bit about Dark Horse. And I'm going to have to really ask great questions here by choice because I have to admit, I have not read this book. You've just teased it, and I must have been trying to reach my potential elsewhere between last time we talked and this time. So what, again, gun to your head, 3 or 4 sentences at most, if you have to summarize Dark Horse for listeners.
Everybody has talent, and there's many pathways to fulfillment or success. There's not a standard path, in other words. So if you don't have the typical education or the typical background, maybe for a fitness professional, that does not necessarily mean that you cannot be very successful. So the book was it's sort of a self-help book, and it's a combination of research and a self-help book. And but at the end of the day, the people that he writes about in Dark Horse are people from all different walks of life that were motivated by wanting to have a fulfilling life, to feel good about what they're doing every single day.
Love that. Great synopsis. Okay, so you've said that in your initial, and I'm just wondering if you realize you said it and you did it on purpose, but you said that a non-traditional approach, is not necessarily mean that you can't reach success, But could we also say the opposite or go to the other extreme and say a non-traditional approach could actually be an asset?
Could be. I think if you've got the right ingredients, it could be. Now where we're at in our business today, when we look at resumes, we look at traditional resumes. I mean, we look for the education, we look for the work experience. We're looking for that, and that resume gets pushed to the top of the heap. I mean, so if we've got someone, for instance, let's say they work for you. If we had someone who worked for you because we know you, we would move that person to the top of the heap. However, I think there have been people. I mean, I worked for a guy years ago who was a dark horse, had no fitness education, and was very successful at fitness because he had a great sales background, and he used the sales experience that he had and brought that into fitness and had a lot of success. Now, fitness has changed a lot since those days, and so that would not work today. I don't believe, but so I think you need to have the right combination.
Let me ask for clarification. So did you just say that going into the fitness industry and owning a fitness facility without fitness background wouldn't work today?
You have to hire the right people.
Gotcha.
I mean, so let's just say for instance, when we first got into fitness years ago, we were talking about tens of thousands of dollars to open something. Today, that number, the startup fee now has been risen. It's much higher. And so
just let me interrupt so for a brick and mortar, but for many of our online only or digital, it's nothing. It's a PC or a Mac.
Right.
Yep.
But now, because the customer, I think there's more information out there.
Ugh,
right.
No question.
Right. And here's the thing. Most of it is not valid. I don't know who authors this. And so I wouldn't, if I don't know who I'm reading, I don't read it. And so, but it makes it muddier. The customer comes in with these preconceived ideas. And they said, I read this or I heard this. They're more confused. And so clarity and having certain traits and ability to move that customer into where he needs to go has become a little more difficult. And so, I do think, though, something like this dark horse takes a lot of energy going forward in the fitness industry because of the number of people out there. So if you can find someone who can mentor you or help you, or like I said, when you read these books, which I certainly enjoy, it'll help you immensely.
What do you think of this statement? I think it ties right into the book, but this is also something that many people who are coaching business entrepreneurs are heard saying today. Being different is actually better than being better.
Well, you have to define different. That's pretty big. If different is this, I've been described as different. If different is passionate and you care and you're willing to go the extra mile, if you will, and you're willing to just lay it on the line, then different is good. If, however, you've got to connect with your customer. I think when we go back and we talk about when people stand up and give speeches or give lectures or talk about different subject matter, there's not much connectivity a lot of times with the audience. And on the flip side of the coin, when someone gets up and talks about something that they believe in or something that's happened to them, we talked about great by choice, that not all moments in time are equal. And if you can get up there and give an example of your own personal life or friends or something where they had injury and overcame that, or there's a personal story, and you can connect with that audience, then you are different. Getting up there and giving them stats or facts and figures is boring.
Mm-hmm.
And the books that I like, they tell stories. And so you need to have a story. What's your story? And if that's your difference, then bring it on. And so, but it's got to be authentic. It's got to be sincere.
And another fitness industry expert who's actually been involved in the industry for close to 35 years as well. So approaching, actually, he and I got started about the same time, a little less experienced than you and from a different angle than you. But one of the ways he would define it as being contrary, being willing to say the not popular thing, not necessarily following what the crowd is saying and adding another blog or another article or another video, having the same opinion, being concerned that people like you. And I don't mean, on the flip side, I don't mean offending anybody, but I mean telling the truth where the truth is otherwise not told, being willing to be the person that people resist. Because whenever a new idea comes out, we've seen this in history, that somebody comes out with a new invention or they're trying to, people think they're crazy, right. Or artists are never famous until they're dead. Right? I mean, right. So right. Being contrary is one way to be different and an important way to distinguish yourself as a leader. And of course that definition is turn around and look behind you. If nobody's following you, you're just a boss. But, leading by being willing to stand up and have somebody throw rocks at you. What do you think about that?
I love it. And I mean, especially if you can define, your position. And but get ready for the rocks.
Yeah.
Right. But this goes back to the Great by Choice, the first book we talked about. If you decide, and I hope you do, that you want to be great, then you're going to have some different opinions, and you're going to get hit with a few rocks. And if you can withstand it, and you've got a story, and you measure everything, and you continue to prepare on a daily basis, and you're consistent, you will be great. And you will have the life you want to have, whether it's monetarily or be home with your family. You won't have to work morning, noon, and night, and you'll reap the benefits. But it all starts, with that first step. And but I think I think that example that you gave is very good. And those are the speeches and those are the people that you remember.
Okay, so the bottom line, we're going to come back to both books, but if you had to recommend a top 10 books to read on the habits of successful, let's say, fitness professionals, would either or both of these books make the cut?
Great by Choice would not.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Dark Horse, boy, I don't know. I think I'd say no to both of them. This mindset, if next time, if you ever call back, this mindset book that I'd like to talk to you about, I know you've read it and I know it's been out there for a while. I think that would make the top 10 list. Your mindset is so important. And I think if we review that next time we chat, I think that would make one of the top 10. But bottom line is I don't think Great by Choice or Dark Horse would make a top 10 list for me for fitness professionals.
Wow. So this was really valuable, hopefully, to you listeners, in that we saved you the trouble, but we also hopefully gave you the best takeaway tips. So you got the Cliff Notes without having to purchase. Love to hear anybody's comments who has read either one or both of those books below the show notes. And so the book we're talking about next time that Tom just referred to is Mindset by Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K. And this one, probably a lively conversation in both regards, talking about you and your mindset as a fitness professional, maybe who's making the choice to go great by choice, or by you working with clients in identifying your ability to coach them better, to help them get the transformation and the outcome that they really want, by knowing where they are with mindset and how you can help them shift if it's not ideal in getting there. So, Tom, last question, hardest one of the day. Hopefully you're sitting down.
Yes.
Is there a question I should have asked you about either book?
No, I think we covered it. I would say to all your listeners that I hope they do choose to be great, because fitness, there's more people in fitness, but there's a greater need than ever before. And the volume of people that we see in the Midwest, and I'm sure around the country and around the world, we are in short supply of people who are passionate and great at their craft. And so I hope your listeners do choose to do this and put in the required work, because it'll pay dividends to themselves financially and time off with their family, but it'll pay greater dividends in fulfillment and helping all their customers.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being here. And Fitness Pros, if you have a question or a comment and you've read either book, leave it below the show link at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/great. And I would appreciate it if you leave a rating in iTunes. I'll also leave the steps to do that. It really helps us. Check out the blog and other podcast episodes at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/great, where you can find the book reviews that we did last month. And until we talk again, go make a difference.